Good morning, I'm Catherine Chong. On behalf of CAPASUS, we welcome you to join our webinar on the topic of career development in the United States, challenges and opportunities. This event is initiated by Dr. James Tsai in the beginning of 2021, and we have intensely discussed and organized it for many months. Later, Dr. Tsai will introduce more details of this event. CAPASUS has always been supported by Taipei Economic and Cultural Office in Atlanta, TECO, and the Taipei Economic and Cultural Representative Office in the United States, based in Washington, D.C. First, we would like to invite Director General Elliot Wang of TECO in Atlanta to give us the opening remarks.
So today, we were supposed to meet in person without closer than 6 feet. However, because another pandemic wave hit us, so we have to be more than 6 feet today. Okay, through the virtual meeting. Okay, but anyway, I'm very pleased to speak with all of you to open today's panel discussion. Now, more than ever, it is integral for our communities to build tight bonds, so that we can promote and uplift Taiwanese and Taiwanese Americans alike. I would like to especially thank CAPASUS, Dr. Tsai and Dr. Zhang for organizing this panel, so that we can explore more scholars and professionals to the skills, experiences, and cultural adaptations they will need to succeed. So in my time as a Director General here, I've been exposed to the different platforms and mechanisms that allow for American professions to succeed. And it largely comes down to the networks they have enjoyed for support and mentorship. However, Taiwanese professionals doesn't have such kind of opportunities and connections, which put us at a very disadvantage when competing with non-Taiwanese peers for positions. So this is why CAPASUS work is so integral to increasing what we can contribute to the U.S. and the Taiwan community. So today, the purpose of this discussion is to allow you to stand on the shoulders of giants. Okay, we have several prominent speakers, giants today. We are looking forward to hearing from what they say. So please listen, learn, and truly connect today, and then make your community proud of what you can and will accomplish. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Director General. Director Shirley Yang of the Science and Technology Division of TECO is also here. She has sponsored us this time. Director Yang, may we have the pleasure to have a few words from you here?
Okay, good morning, everyone. I'm Shirley Yang. It's my pleasure to represent the Science and Technology Division at TECO and the Ministry of Science and Technology to attend this webinar organized by the CAPASUS. The Science and Technology Division at TECO provides service to 11 states in the U.S., including Washington, D.C. and the southeastern U.S., related to science and technology cooperation. And CAPAS is one of our important associations. Thank you very much. Let's provide an interactive platform for technology cooperation and information exchange. In addition, the ministry is dedicated to promoting academia and industry partnership. encouraging innovation and cultivating science and technology manpower. Therefore, today's topic is very meaningful. I think everyone can get a lot from today's topic and meeting. We know investing in education and in industry is like taking a journey. It really takes years and even decades to see the rewards to individuals and to society. For example, TSMC was first established in 1987 and now is the leading company in the world. Many other companies in Taiwan also need high-quality human resources to bring innovation idea to help industry transform and improve competitiveness. This is the strength of CAPASUS. We look forward to seeing scholars and professionals benefit from this experience sharing event. I need to thank you again for our President, Catherine Chen, and all members for your efforts and participation to strengthen the connection between the U.S. and Taiwan. Thank you very much. I hope today's conference is complete success with everyone keeping safe and healthy during this critical time. Thank you again for your invitation and participation today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Director Yang. Your support is highly appreciated. Director Martin Chen of the Economic Division is here now. He will share with us some great information about job opportunities in Taiwan. Director Chen, please.
Okay, thank you, President Chang. Now, on behalf of the Ministry of Economic Affairs, I'd just like to take 3 minutes to introduce you Contact Taiwan, our national port for recruiting global talents. Next. Catherine, could you... Okay, so Taiwan needs more global professionals. Next. Why for economic growth last year, Taiwan created the largest, the highest economic growth in the world, and for export growth for the first half of this year, Taiwan reached 31% high growth. Next. So investment also booming in Taiwan. Up to now, we have since last year we have 950 companies returning from Taiwan, returning from China to invest in Taiwan. Okay, and there are lots of new 12-inch semiconductor factories to be built in Taiwan. TSMC is going to build 12 factories for 5 nanometers, 3 nanometers, 2 nanometers, and also Nanya or Power Chip or UMC are going to do the same. And this week, TSMC also announced they are going to build maybe another 6 factories for 7 nanometers in Kaohsiung. Next. And that creates strong demands for high-tech engineers demand in Taiwan. Like TSMC announced they are going to hire 9,000 engineers, MediaTek 2,000, and ASE 3,000, Delta in 1,800, and UMC 1,000. Next. So according to 104 Manpower Bank survey that the last quarter of 2021, Taiwan is still in shortage of 15,000 new semiconductor talent. Next. And foreign direct investment also flourishing in Taiwan, like in ASML. They announced they are going to hire 600 engineers in Taiwan. They have 3,000 employees in Taiwan now. And Micron also want to hire 300 engineers, even though they have 9,000 people in Taiwan now. And Taiwan is Google's largest R&D base outside of USA. Currently, they have 2,600 engineers, and they just announced they are going to build a third data center in Yunlin. And Microsoft also announced their largest investment in Taiwan for the last 30 years. And they are going to build the first cloud data center in Taiwan. Next. So how can the global talent learn more about Taiwan? Next. And you can just please go on the Contact Taiwan, our national portal, and there are more than 1,800 Taiwanese high-tech companies in the different sector that they are recruiting people now. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We hope this information will help a lot of audience here. Now, Dr. Tsai will share with us his vision and goals of this event, and he will introduce our outstanding speakers here. Dr. Tsai, please.
Okay, first welcome the members, visitors, and guests to the workshop. I'm James Tsai, and Professor at Georgia Tech, and it's my privilege to host this workshop to share with you my 25 years of experience in the U.S. At Georgia Tech, we have seen the value of such a workshop as the one today for the experience sharing. Catherine and I have organized this workshop. So first of all, I will introduce our vision and long-term goal, objective plan, and topic. This workshop will be presented in English. However, it is okay if you would like to ask questions in Chinese. So first, I think our vision and long-term goal is to build a sustainable experience sharing platform and mentorship for the knowledge transfer among students, scholars, and professionals to enable them to professionally and personally improve their leadership in Taiwan and in the United States. To achieve this vision and long-term goal, we have started with the 3 workshops and have a strong interest. Those are the area have a strong interest from the audience and also in our familiar areas. The objective of the workshop is to provide the opportunity for members and visitors and guests to exchange their academic, cultural, social, and professional and business knowledge and experience, and also to improve the effective integration of Taiwanese and American cultures and societies. So the following 3 workshops is going to be, we plan to organize in this year and next year. The first one here is a career development in the U.S., challenging and opportunity, and on the 7th of September 2021. And the second workshop is going to be an entrepreneurship in 2022. The third workshop is going to be diversity, equity, and inclusion for Asian Americans in 2022. Details are forthcoming. And we have invited many outstanding speakers in today's workshop. There are many more outstanding scholars and professionals that I hope to invite to future workshop and program. We welcome a suggestion for future speakers and participants. The following here is showing the 2 topics we're going to present today. I started with the area of science and engineering because it is the area that I'm most familiar with. Certainly, the information and knowledge presented today, it also useful for the other area like liberal arts, etc. So, for example, that how did you find jobs, interviews, making decisions on jobs, and also navigate smoothly and successfully in your career path. And we have the 3 excellent speakers who are in different stages of their career path, from senior to junior, to share their experience. For the second topic, It has been requested by the faculty and professionals who seek new opportunity in their career path. We have two outstanding speakers on this topic, and I'll introduce them later. The one I want to mention is to carry on the momentum of this workshop. At the end of the program, we have a workshop survey to gather your feedbacks on today's workshop contents useful to you, and also recommendation of future workshop contents and speakers, and also your willingness to be a mentor or mentee. Your feedback will be extremely important and valuable to us. It would take about less than 5 and 10 minutes for you to complete this survey, and you will have the chance for the raffle drawing. Once you complete the survey, be sure to put on your name and the email address once you got it, and we need to contact you. So this workshop here, survey website will be in the chat. So later on, I think you can see from the chat, you can see that information there. So I think with that, without further ado, we are going to start with the first topic, science and engineering scholars and professional career development. So as I mentioned, we have three outstanding speakers and going to give the talk. And then I'll introduce the first one here, Jet Wu. Jet Wu currently is a professor at Georgia Tech, and he also members of National Academy of Engineers in the US and also in Taiwan. He coined the term data science in 1998, research focused on engineering statistics. So without further ado, I will turn the floor to Jet Wu. Okay, Jet.
Well, this is new to me, so I had to try to figure out what may be of interest to the audience. First, my whole career, I have been an academic. So my point of view and experience mostly from academic. Of course, I have many students who went to industry. So let me start with the first thing, hunting for job. So hunting for job, first thing, of course, you look at the pay package. And I'll say more about pay package later. The nature of the job. So what I mean by does it fit? So there are three types: academic, industry, and government, and they're very different. Government tend to pay lower, but generally has job security and less pressure, maybe better benefits. Academic most free, and they pay less. Industry pay more. I remember when I started my career, the pay gap was big, but not that big. But nowadays, crazy. If you have computer science or data science, anything related to those areas, with a fresh pay can be easily 150 or more. 2-3 years later can be 300,000. And even an endowed chair, some of the highest paid Georgia Tech professors probably only making over 300,000, but for those to be whole life. So it depends on how you look at that, the money or what. Another one is a change field. Get back to that. There is a difference between academic and the industry. In industry, with some exception, like the Microsoft Research Lab, Amazon, you don't pursue what you want to do. The nice thing about academia, I found out is, if you move job, you carry your legacy. Because people don't remember I used to work at University of, say, Michigan or Wisconsin. They remember what I have done, okay? And even when I retire. So my whole life, the career, the legacy go with me. Academic industry, especially if you are more a company person like a VP. Like some of my friends have high VPs, but you know the power go with that. But once you don't have the VP, nobody remember you. Okay, zero. Okay, so it's very different. This is a legacy to keep in mind. On the other hand, it's not easy to be an academic and to go very high, because that takes not only, I would say, power, I have to say, is talent. You need to have talent to be a good researcher. And you should know it by the time you graduate. Because if you can very easily do things, probably you can do it. If you work so hard to get a few things, and I see that among some of my students, I told them go to industry. I didn't give reason. I need to respect them, but I know who fit what. Another issue is change field. Why I say that? Because maybe your research is not in the most promising or futuristic, and you get a job offer where you need to learn new things. I think this would be a good one. I give you an example much earlier, because nowadays is different. Nowadays, if there's a good IT job with some research nature, it probably go. But say 10, 15 years ago, a statistics PhD and choosing between a job in pharmaceutical company or IT company, but those are not today's the say Microsoft or Google. Usually people will go to pharma because pharma pay well those days relatively, and job not too hard. I mean, my joke about doing pharmaceutical statistics is you do one t-test a day, only Monday to Friday, and you will make about $100,000. This was $100,000 about 15 years ago. It was my joke in a somewhat not quite a friendly way. Okay. Location. Why location? Sometimes it's a choice between career and personal. I give you my experience. My first job after Berkeley was University of Wisconsin, and it was a highly ranked statistics department. But the location was, I mean, it's cold, beautiful and cold. I had the opportunity to go to California, but not to Berkeley or Stanford. And I chose to stay. So it's very hard to say. So there, and I have another opportunity to go to University of Washington, Seattle, and they gave me tenure. It was a very hard one. I think I would say, my career ambition somehow override the personal, because Seattle was so beautiful. Of course, in Wisconsin, I had the luck of meeting my wife and got married. So future growth, I already mentioned. So when you start work, you need to mix with your colleagues. If you are very extrovert, you're no problem. But some of the Taiwanese or Chinese are more introvert, or at least initially introvert. Okay, the new generation probably is different. I think the best way to loosen up a relationship is invite them for a Chinese meal, because most people like Chinese meal. I think that is the best way. And I found that inviting them to dim sum is very good. The reason in dim sum, there's so many choices. And the atmosphere also is kind of, it's a little bit like a community. And you can share hobby. If your boss or colleague like to play golf, maybe you'll do that. I never. But academic don't care the golf. But industry, maybe. Now, you need to learn about office politics. And I know some people would tell me, including my former student, they often would call me back and get my advice. How do I find out about the office politics? Well, the suggestion, among the colleagues, there are always some people who are more informed, who always know something. You can find out from there. And so again, you need to make friends. Last one, very important advice: stay away from joining faction. There can be office politics, and you should not. Especially in academic, sometimes vote, like voting for the new chair, whatever. You have to be very careful, very careful. Don't overcommit yourself. You can join the wrong section, and you're in trouble. How to handle a bad boss? Oh, that's really bad. I don't know what to say. You need to tolerate, or maybe you good enough. You can somehow convince the boss. Okay. Well, if all fail, you have to change unit.
2 minutes remaining.
Okay. you have to change your job or change union. Okay, so when you get an offer, how do you negotiate? This can be initial offer for a starter, or can be a second or third job. Number one, not greedy. You look at the whole thing. So another one you look at is the pay. This is the salary versus the package, because it's different. One place pay maybe say $10,000 more, but another one have a better package, more flexible hours, etc. Another thing you should keep in mind, at least in academic, I'm not too sure about industry, is different thing in the overall offer coming from different part of budget. Take Georgia Tech or any academic, there's a startup fund. They come from the research vice president, okay? But your salary coming from your dean, so they are different. And some parts are more flexible, some are not flexible. If they tell you the salary is not flexible and you try to bargain, you cannot. But they'll tell you that the other part more flexible. Say they can give you summer salary, or they can give you less teaching and so forth. So you need to look at the whole package. And you have to learn to judge. I'm looking at my notes, okay. So another one in the pay package is if you have, say, a spouse or partner, and you need to try to get a job for him or her, then the future employer should try to help you. And so this can be another big part. Okay, I think that's all I have. Okay, and I'll be happy to answer a question later.
The second speaker, Ross. Ross is just kind of quickly shown here. So Ross is currently an R&D step member in the Vehicle Connectivity and Autonomy Research Group at Oak Ridge National Lab. And his research focuses on utilizing emergent sensing and computational technology for transportation data collection, analysis, visualization, simulation, and modeling, and application. So with that, I think, Ross, the floor is yours.
Okay. Good morning. I'm assuming you can see my screen and hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So a quick background of myself. You know, I did my undergrad and graduate school master's in Taiwan, and I went to Georgia Tech in 2010. And so for the past about 5 years, I've been working. I've had two jobs. One is when I graduated from Georgia Tech, I was working for a consulting firm, engineering consulting firm. But I was on site Florida Department of Transportation. So that was a unique position for me to see both the industrial side and the state government side. And in summer 2018, I joined Oak Ridge National Laboratory. So my background is in civil engineering. So my perspective is more on the civil engineering or transportation aspect. So 3 points I want to share, given my career so far, is one is to understand the institution and job types. Professor Wu actually covered part of that, so I'll try to expand from that. And then second is how to get your first job offer or any job offer. And third is how to thrive in your job. So quickly, like I said earlier, I was working for a consulting firm, but I was working at a public sector, which is a state public sector. And now I'm a national laboratory. So so this is what I learned and see. So for a consulting firm or for industrial jobs, usually profit is number one objective for the company, right? So a lot of the decisions, the policies that are made are primarily for profits. And so usually it's more short-term very project specific. So maybe a project for 1-2 years and you're done. You finish the task and you move on to the next. For public sector, it's very different because it's public service oriented. So it's not about getting paid or getting a lot of profits, right? So it's usually long term, and usually there's for state DOTs, for example, there's usually a lot of legacy systems that you're trying to maintain. So a lot of the jobs and the contractors are supporting that kind of rule. So as far as the package wise goes, industry, at least for my experience, state DOT has a lot of better benefits in terms of healthcare and all that. So I'll give a very specific example. I think they gave, for the whole family, they are paying maybe less than $50 a month for healthcare versus private sector. Maybe you're paying, $500 a month. So that's a huge difference. As far as the national laboratory go, it's similar to public sector, but all national laboratory, at least for Oak Ridge, is we're actually contractors to the Department of Energy. So we are, our role is very different. It's more focused on research and having leadership in the national scope. So it's usually midterm or long term. And, this is more of a discussion opener. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. We can talk more. The second point I want to make is to get the job. And really one key point I want to point out is, do you want to find a job or do you want the job to come and find you? And that's the strategy. Because I think if you have to apply for 200 jobs and maybe you'll get one, then that's one way of getting a job. But then another way is that you put yourself in a position that when someone has an opening, they will come find you. So that's kind of the idea. I think the second approach is more, it's easier and it puts you in a better position to find a job that you really want to do. So somewhere along that line is very important is networking. Professor Wu actually touched on that, right? You need to interact with people. You need to make friends and connect. So my experience, I was very active in the professional society, like when I was at Georgia Tech. And so I attend the student sectors. I attend conferences. So different field, usually there's, 1 or 2 big conferences every year. And there's usually opportunities to serve in those communities or societies. So my 2 jobs so far came from networking, right? So my first job was they were going to bid for a contract with Florida DOT, and they reached out to me and say, hey, this fits your background. Are you interested? And then the second job, when I applied, I didn't know it was someone who was I've already connected before, and they were really excited that I was applying for a job. So that really helps a lot. Before I go into the interview, I know 80% of the chance I will probably get an offer from them. Now, if you and that's one part, right? And the second part is really how do you find the job, right? And one key thing that may be overlooked a lot of times is you need to read the job descriptions closely, because a lot of times we try to apply for a job that it's not really within our skill set, or we're not really the person they're looking for. And another key point to pay attention, and I know everybody is probably aware, is whether or not they are sponsoring immigration, if their package is supporting that, right? So before I applied for the national laboratory job, I actually didn't think I could work at the national laboratory. But when I read the descriptions, they actually didn't specifically say you have to be a citizen or a resident. So that's how I was able to apply for a job and then got the job. So finally, the last point I want to make is how to thrive in your job. And again, I'm in my 5th year of my career, so I'll share what I've seen and been helpful for me. So one is really have passion in what you do, right? So even if you're having some challenges, and like what Professor Wu was saying, there may be your boss may not be nice, but really important, your day in and day out is what you do. So if you like it, if you love it, that will make your job much easier. Second point I want to make is try to think out of the box. One example, when I was working at Florida DOT, they have these legacy ways of doing things, right? They've done that, 10, 20 years. But I saw an opportunity that can really streamline, 5 different steps into one web application that can solve all the, the 5 steps they have to prepare before they go on to do a job. I didn't start with proposing the idea to them, but I started doing some prototypes myself. And when I showed them a prototype, they really like it. And I've changed my job, but they're still using the tool that I developed. So that that really, and they're really appreciative of what I did there. And try different things. That means that a lot of times there may be different types of jobs that may not be well within your skill set, but that actually can potentially open up new opportunities. So that's something keep in mind, that you may want to try different things.
Minutes remaining.
2 minutes? Okay. So another thing is to have and form a good team. And I think this kind of ties back to the network and connecting. Also, touched on what Professor Wu said about office politics. You need to be informed. And this is a good way to be informed and also to work on things together, because a lot of times most of the jobs nowadays are not done by one person, right? You cannot really do it yourself. You have to form a team. You have to know the strengths and weaknesses of yourself. So that helps a lot. And one more point is you need to seek mentors, and that is really important, because especially when you're new to the job, the mentors have been there 10, 20 years. They've seen a lot of things going. Some of the things, the management may be making changes that, to you, that may be a big change. But then if you talk to some of the mentors, they will say, these kind of changes happen every few years, and, you just need to adapt, things of that nature. So many mentors will give you a good insight into what the job, is about. And one more point is when you are in a position, you're leading a project, or you're guiding students, you need to really give credits to the students, because they are the ones who are doing a lot of work. They're putting you as a PI or a leader of the project, the outcomes, right? So when you talk to sponsor, for example, when you make presentations, make sure you acknowledge those people. And that goes a long way, because you want to be the good boss, right? So that goes kind of the reverse. When you are in a more management position, you need to be aware of that. I think this is the last point. 2 more points. Performance evaluation process is important, because that's how you are evaluated every year, and that's how you get raised. A lot of times it may not matter that much, but being aware of that will help yourself making good decisions and prioritize things a little bit better. And finally is think long, right? So if understanding the performance evaluation process is more of a short-term goal, then your long-term goal is kind of what Dr. Wu was saying. How do you have the legacy? So build up your resume. So even if you change job later, whatever you do at your current job, there are things that you can carry and make impact, continue to make impact. So that's all I have to share. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ross. So with that, I think we will be moving to the next speaker. So the next speaker, by the way, before I get into the next speaker, just a reminder, if you have questions, please type your question in chat, and Catherine will answer. Will read each question for the speaker to respond. So the third speaker, I think Can you see my, yeah. So the third speaker is the Zhiwei. So I think Zhiwei is currently the medical physics resident at Emory University. So I think without further ado, I'll turn that to Zhiwei then. Yeah. So you are sharing the screen now, right?
Yeah. Thank you, James. Can everyone hear me now?
Yes, I think we can
Yes.
hear you all right. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for the opportunity today. Professor Wu and Aras did a very great job about the job introduction. And I guess I might have some redundancy, so I probably will focus more on introduce what is the job of medical physics and what is the opportunity at Georgia specifically. First of all, I would like to briefly introduce my background and how what led to me into the current position. Starting from my master education, my advisor told me 2 projects. One is about design the next generation nuclear power plant, and the other way is how to use radiation to cure cancer patients. At that time, I chose the engineering project. The reason is if I choose that one, my professor will send me to Idaho National Lab to complete my master's thesis. And at that time, Idaho National Lab was the nuclear leading lab in the United States. And since I'm studying in nuclear engineering, I think I should go there and to see what is the best people do for their work. And later, because for Taiwanese men, we need to serve in the army. When I complete my thesis, I go back to serve in the army for 1 year. And then when I come back, try to complete my previous project. Unfortunately, the Fukushima accident happened in Japan in 2011. As a consequence, the DOE shut down the whole project related to the next generation nuclear power plant. Instead, they gave me a project to do nuclear fusion. When I hear this topic, I say, no, I'm not going to do that because it's like a endless road. We never achieved that in the past 50 years, and for the next 50 years, there's no clear foreseeable future. Then I moved to North Carolina State University, and there I met my advisor, Professor Nanding. The first things he teach me is the meaning of PhD. The Doctor of Philosophy, he says we should emphasize more on the philosophy part, which is the love of wisdom. He told me that he will never teach me some technical details. Instead, he will train me to become a thinker. Following his training, when I graduate, I kind of thinking what kind of what is important elements for me to decide the job. I conclude into 4 categories. The lifestyle. It depends on whether we like to enjoy the nature beauty, enjoy our life, or we want to be able to drive a fancy sport car, live in a fancy home. And family is also very important. It depends on whether we have a wife. The happy wife make a happy family. So when selecting a job, probably the wife opinion will be very important. If people is single, then the location becomes very important. You know, some national lab, like in Idaho or New Mexico, they don't have much young people there. So it's difficult to find a wife. And next, the job security is also very important because when our age getting older and older, it's hard to find a new job if we go into there's some direction which is not that popular. The last part is the self-esteem. This one is very important but hard to understand. In order to get it more, I suggest like for the young student, when they approaching their graduation time, probably you guys want to look at the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It categorizes the needs into 3 different parts, including the basic one, psychological one, and the self-fulfillment. The interesting thing is those needs will change as we getting older and older. At the very beginning, we might just want to get a job. then we are satisfied. However, later we find out, okay, we got a green card, we can live in the United States, but this is not a lifestyle we like. We want to maybe get a better payment or try to find a spouse. So those kind of needs are very important in searching a job. We need to search a job which has a long-term development instead of a short-term goal. And then I would like to introduce about the job of medical physics. I feel like for students in Georgia, this is a great opportunity. The medical physics job is about like how we can use engineering approach to treat the cancer patient. For example, this figure shows the proton radiation therapy machine. We will have a proton beam generated from cyclotron and delivered through this nozzle to the patient and who got cancer in multiple different sites. The way to achieve this rely on the teamwork. For example, first we need to use a CT to get the patient's anatomy information, and then how we can convert this CT information into material property. Then we can use engineering approach to simulate what would be the dose distribution within the patient's body. Then we can make a proper plan to deliver the dose at the specific area. Because the goal is try to kill the tumor and sparing the normal tissue. In this part, it's heavily rely on the Monte Carlo simulation, which is pretty common in all the engineering education. And another application is how we can use machine learning or deep learning, try to reduce a CT metal artifact. For example, we know that the cancer patient might have multiple different symptoms. And one common thing is they might install a lot of artificial material in their body. For example, for people with a hip issue, they might have a hip prosthesis implant, or if they have some spine issue, they may install some spine screw. Those metal material will cause a very strong artifact on the imaging side that cannot make us to clearly classify their material. And with the help from deep learning technology, we has the potential to remove those metal artifacts. Then we can reconstruct what is the information for the normal tissue that will be very helpful for the treatment planning. Another engineering application in the medical physics is like during the radiation treatment, it requires high accurate beam to shoot to the target in the red part. However, we all have breathing, then that will cause the organ motion. And if we miss something, then that's a nightmare because we are damaging our healthy tissue.
2 minutes remaining.
Thank you. And one of the engineering approaches like we can use finite element simulation to simulate the organ motion that will help us to study how we can manage this motion and then achieve our planning purpose. And the important question is how to get into this field. First, at Georgia Tech, there are like 6 courses which is available for all the students in Georgia, no matter it's in Georgia Tech or Emory or Georgia State. After taking those 6 courses, you basically qualify to attend the medical physics residency matching. This is the training just like a physician. Normally, it's 2-year or 3-year training. After that, you can seeking for formal medical physics job. And for the people who get a PhD in Taiwan, one quick way to get into the field is attending US as a postdoc, and during their postdoctoral life, try to complete these 6 courses. For example, Emory provides a certificate program offering those courses. Then after that, you can try to seeking the matching. If you got matched, then congratulations, you're into the field. And the last thing I would like to share is this video is from Professor Lagoon, which is a very famous scholar, also the lead of Facebook AI. I suggest that young students should watch this video to understand the history of AI development and also the value of PhD. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, the Ziwei. So I think at this point in time, we would like to open question to the audience. Please introduce your name and then your question. Please let us know if you would like to address your question to a specific speaker. Any question at this point in time? Please.
This is KJ. Okay. So first of all, I want to say that I took Dr. Wu's or Jeff Wu's course back in 2007. I think that's a really nice course, the DOE. Right, so that's very useful. I learned a lot of things there. And I want to say that I cannot agree anymore, okay, with what the previous speakers said. And I think I have very unique experience, so I want to share with probably people with less experience. So I have totally different career path. I have experience in academia. I also have experience in federal and state government, and then I'm working for a private consulting firm. Okay, so one thing I want to add is that because I have so many job transitions, one thing really important is that you probably want to keep really good relationship with your previous employers. I think that's, from my experience, that's important because whenever you look for new jobs, they always call your previous employers, especially your ex-managers, to ask if this is a good person, if he or she is easy to work with. I think that's my experience. And I also cannot agree anymore about the happy family or happy wife idea, because that's one main reason why I had so many job transitions. Like I had different opportunities, but I just choose to stay with my family. It may not be the best job or with less pay or probably less job security, but I'm happy with what I am now. Okay, thank you.
Hey, thank you, KJ. So other than that, any other questions? If not, I have one question here. I think for Ross. I think one of the questions there for you is when you finish your degree and then went to the interview or even went to the first job, have you seen any cultural difference? For example, anything surprise you when you were in your interview or in your job? And if yes, could you share with us a little bit on that?
When I first graduated, when I got my first job, I actually didn't really have a formal interview because the way they organized the job is they were bidding for the contract. If they win the grant, then I get the job. So it was a contingent offer, really. So, but my second job, I did have the interview. I didn't see any specific cultural shock or anything, really. And so I don't know if I can answer that question. I think it's maybe, if I have more job interviews, maybe I'll see different things, but yeah.
Sure. Yeah. And others, Jepu or Ziwei, you have any experience on that or not quite? Yeah.
When I graduate, my original goal is try to seeking a job in the national laboratory because it's the environment which I'm familiar with. However, I graduated in 2018. That was not a good time for the government's funding. So most of the national lab, they don't hire like new people. And then that's why I end up into another field. And but it's interesting because in 2019, Actually, I got offer from 2 different national laboratories because that year the funding is pretty good, and then they need people, and the pay is much better, at least almost twice as much as my current payment. However, I feel very insecure because national lab depend on the DOE funding. If that year we got a lot of fund, then everyone is happy. However, if the funding is being cut, then they might start to lay off people, and then I just reject those offers because I feel like when we have a family, then the job security is more important. Yeah, I hope I answered some part of the question.
Okay, thank you. I think, Esther, are you going to read out? There's 2 questions from
Yes.
David and one from Esther. Go ahead.
During Professor Wu's presentation, we had a question in the chat area. Dave was asking, is legacy made by training students or publishing papers?
Okay, so
and then do you want me to?
No, I think we should answer one by one. Okay. Both. And I've seen many examples in my profession. I mean, these are the very highly established people. There are some people, David, he's a professor here, so he's interested in these kind of things. There are some very famous researchers who do not have a lot of students. For example, if you work at Bell Lab, you probably don't have a lot of students. You may have 1 or 2 postdocs. If your whole career is academic, you may. But some people don't take a lot of students. And so there will be because your research and you have a legacy. But there's another type. There are people who are doing good research, not truly earth-shaking, but some are very good in producing students. So students will go to many, many places. And so there's another legacy. And of course, there are professors who can do both. Okay. So yeah, when I say legacy, I realized because I moved job a few times and I never suffered because people probably don't quite remember. For example, I was chairman in Michigan Statistics, but I don't think people remember I was ever chairman. I mean, chairman is a job. Chairman has power, but once you're out of chairman, you have no power. But you do good research and legacy, people remember. Okay, second question. I don't quite understand this question. Okay, of course, my viewpoint is my generation. And I do know that my students had different generations because I have 50 or 51 PhD students ranging over. You know, some even older than me, some a few years younger, although their generation is 1 level lower, and they are 2 generations. So, but I see the way they look at things. I can only say nowadays, in statistics or data science, it's probably equally attractive, even for ambitious researchers, to go to academic or go directly to industry, because some industrial jobs have research component, and you can do a lot of research. You know, for example, if you do machine learning, you're probably better in the industry. You don't need to worry about funding. You do the cutting edge research. So unless Esther can elaborate, that's all I can answer.
Let's delay. So I think we are going to move on to the next topic. So the next topic here is the short-term appointment outside your organization. So it's going to be presented by the Stephen Liao. Stephen is currently a professor at Georgia Tech and research focused on modeling, monitoring, and control of precision manufacturing process and systems. So without further ado, Stephen, I think I will turn the floor to you.
I think the plan is for Nancy to go first. Nancy, do you want to start off?
Yes. So you want to go first? Okay. Okay. So yeah, if that is the case, that So I think Nancy, I just quickly mentioned. So Nancy is a retired IT professional, and then now is the principal of Atlanta Chinese School, and she focuses on community services now. And I think she would share her experience on international business collaboration. With that, I think the floor is yours, Nancy.
Thank you. Okay, let me put on my slides. Could everybody see it?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, good morning. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Nancy Tai. Unlike the Professor Wu, Ross, and Zhiwei, they share with you some of their tricks and the tips on finding or thriving in your job. What I'm Professor Stephen Liang and I, we are going to share with you some of our overseas job experiences. To begin with, I would like to apologize if I have not done a good job preparing the tips to show you how to do things, because what I'm going to share with you is my personal experience in the private sector, not academia. First, as far as overseas job, usually overseas jobs are not as attractive, to be honest with you, because that requires some big changes on personal lifestyle change and also some sacrifices on family life. So usually you would not accept an overseas job unless it offers something you really like to do. And also the compensation package, we talked about that earlier. Compensation package is worth the time, worth the change. And also if the job can further advance your career or broaden your perspective in life. This is my opinion. And as far as how you find the job, I think previously Dr. Ross and also have mentioned if you, whether you find a job or let a job find you. To be honest with you, every company, they are constantly looking for talent to fulfill their needs. How you land your job on a posted position or not even posted position really depends on a lot of factors. One of that is networking, and we heard that earlier on. Because it is not whom you know, it is who knows you that will land you the job. And so I'm not going to repeat a lot of discussion on this because you have heard that earlier. As far as the location, some of you may ask, when you find a overseas job, is any particular things that to look out for the overseas job? What I would like to suggest is that a job is a job, but when you look for relocation, you would like to look for something that fulfill your purpose in life, not just the job, because there are a lot of things important to you. And before I came across that overseas job posting, I worked for Georgia Pacific for 15 years. And I was very happy, like Ross was talking about, you have to be passionate with your job. I was very happy with my job. I guess that people can tell you are passionate about what you do. So before I knew, I was asked to share my experiences outside the companies. And I was also sent to represent my company to the EPC Global conferences and meetings, and I was asked to host the discussions. So I met a lot of people from around the globe, and we become very good friends, and then we did a lot of business collaborations. And that was in those meetings that Yongfeng Yu Group in Taiwan found me. They saw what I did, and I guess my profile meet their needs. I had a domain knowledge on the business and on the technical side. And also I had the connections and the leadership that they saw that they need because they want to enter the RFID business, and my profile meet their needs. They came to me in 2005 and asked me to join them. I waited until 2006 until my younger son went to college in that year. So what I did is when I went to Taiwan, now looking back, I was very brave because back then it was ahead of its time. RFID was so early. We didn't have anything we need, so we have to build everything from scratch. I even had to build a test lab, working with Ohio State University to build a test lab to test what we designed and what we tested in Taiwan. So I did a lot of proof of concept projects there. Some of them involve government agencies. And so it was, the scale was pretty good for proof of concept. And one of that was the Taiwan highway. There was a lot of toll booths then. So RFID was used to replace those toll booths, to replace it with the speed pass. And I think in US, in Atlanta, actually, there's a lot of speed pass on the highway now, or even locals. And one of the government agencies' project was in Taiwan Customs. We introduced RFID to speed up the customs checking. And I was asked to represent Taiwan Customs to present the status in the APAC meeting in Singapore. And that's how I found out that all the customs around the globe, they work very closely with each other. While I was in Taiwan, I continued leading the implementation discussion in EPC Global. So I kept close contact with the people around the globe. And I even hosted an EPC Global meeting in Taipei. Before I left Taiwan, I helped set up a RFID inlay factory in China. That required a lot of traveling as well. So I kind of zoomed through my presentation because I want to leave more time for Professor Stephen Liang. So my conclusion is that even though I had to travel a lot when I was in that overseas position, I did have some quality time with my parents and my family life there. So that's why I said, when you took a job, overseas job, keep your life expectancies in mind. What's important to you really will make because you are there alone. So you have to have some mental support there. If I could have done it over, I would like to set a more clear expectation for my employer. Like I said, they found me and they had very high expectation of me to build some miracle business. But RFID was in its early stage. A lot of things were missing. We all have to build things from scratch. So the best I could do to do a lot of proof of concept to identify what is missing, what do we need to build and develop. Unfortunately, I had to return home because I had my personal timeline. I cannot be there for a long time. I was there long enough, 5 years. I had to come back. I was not able to see all the progress in full scale before I returned. But I fully enjoyed the experiences there. So if you have any more questions, I'll be glad to answer that in the Q&A session. If I did not answer or address your concerns, I hope that you will get your answers from the next speaker, Professor Stephen Liang. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nancy. So with that, we were turning to the next speaker, which is the Professor Stephen Liang, as you can see on my screen here. So as earlier I mentioned about the Stephen's currently is a professor at Georgia Tech. I think he would like to share with you his 3 years as heading the company in Taiwan when he was in Georgia Tech. So I think without further ado, Stephen, I think I'll turn the floor to you.
Thank you, James, for the introduction, and thank you, Nancy, for the preceding talk. They all made me very humble. First of all, I do not want to talk about jobs overseas and waste your time here, because time is what we don't have now. Many of you know overseas job market and job natures much more than I do, and I certainly am not able to tell you anything that you do not already know about jobs overseas. So I'm just going to give you some, I'm not just my personal experience for your references only, and hopefully to receive your advice and suggestions in nature, like what we Chinese always say, throw out a brick of stone to receive a brick of gold. First of all, the purpose that before we went on this journey overseas, I really wanted to know the purpose of doing this. In the middle of my US career, after so many years of me staying away from Taiwan, the purpose of my working in Taiwan was simply to find a venue to pay back my birth country out of my gratitude and thankfulness. So the ways to set up of a opportunity of working in Taiwan for us as U.S. professors and professionals, I think there are a couple of mechanisms we can think about. First of all is to apply for Ministry of Science and Technology most programs, or Ministry of Economic Affairs program. I think Shirley and Martin can elaborate on those much more than I do. I actually spent one summer with National Taiwan University when they received the funding from NSC, the former MOST at that time. So through that summer, I was very busy going around the island to give invited lectures and panels with different universities and companies. And that came out to be about 15 or 20 of them in a 2-month period. So I still remember that my biggest job, day in and day out, was just simply to prepare transparency slides. My kids went with me at that summer. So boy, they really had a great summer camp, wonderful tasting of food, and get to learn the language of Chinese quite well. And the second mechanism I like to share is which very much go along the thought of Nancy, was that for a job to find you, it would be wonderful for you to deliver seminars, panels, and training courses in your own field. As an example, following from a 3-day training panel I delivered in the 90s, late 90s, for the China Productivity Center, CPC, in Taiwan. There came a private company owner in the audience, invited me to a dinner, and when he asked me to join his factory in the Dirt City, Fucheng, for consideration of managing it. I did not go for that factory tour, and the company has since gone public and is doing very well globally. As another example, there was another opportunity presented to me following one of my seminars in Taiwan for me to go back to a governmental nonprofit research organization, eTree, as a director and vice president. I did fly from US to Taiwan for that 3-day interview visit, but I did not get approval from my wife and my family member to go. And following the principle of a happy wife and a happy family, I had to forego that opportunity. And what I'm trying to say is that although the purpose of giving presentations and seminars in your field was not to attract job offers, but job offers do come closely after that. And the third mechanism is perhaps for you to accept media interviews, such as alumni newsletters, daily newspapers, and magazines. that was actually exactly the way that a publicly traded company, after they spotted my interview coverage in the public media, came to contact with me and invited me to join their operation, which I accepted to do so in 2008. So the next topic is to secure U.S. home institutions approval. I guess most important thing to make sure that your U.S. home institution will permit you to take several years off to work elsewhere is for your leave of absence request to make sense for your home institution. For example, your leave of absence request could lead to more funding opportunities in the future, more student exchanges, more corporate endowment prospects, so on and so forth. Family arrangement. My family did not go with me, which made my overseas stay quite miserable, frankly. However, I did manage to fly my family members over to Taiwan 2 times a year on company's expense, very much thanks to a pre-employment agreement that I made with the employer. So work planning, pre-planning before starting. When I started with my work overseas, I understood that the duration could be quite short because I'm pretty much on the loan, on the leave of absence with Georgia Tech. So I might not have sufficient time over there to complete my plan in order to make a difference. So a couple of months, 2 months before I started out in Taiwan, I managed to submit a proposal to the company's board of directors and got it approved with resources allocated for it. In that proposal, I outlined what I wanted to bring on board, things like a reorg, the startup of corporate university, the moving forward of a corporate R&D center, the institution of profit sharing incentives, so on and so forth, for about 7 items. It turned out that early proposal actually helped me a long way during my stay in the company. So during my stay in Taiwan, there's taxation issues. As you know, income around the globe has to be reported to both US and Taiwan. Taiwan's tax deadline is actually behind the US deadline by about a month. But I filed for Taiwan's income tax return early enough, so come April 15, I had Taiwan's income tax as a tax credit to my US income tax return. And it turned out that it saved us quite a bit of income liability while everything was legal. Health coverage, as you know, Taiwan has this healthcare for all program that really is a direct duplication with my US healthcare plan, which I managed to continue even when I'm away in the interest of my family members. So the compromise between 2 jobs was very difficult. Make sense out of my Taiwan stay, I had to work very hard, 12 hours or more, 7 days a week on the average. Pretty soon I got to realize that it was very difficult to work 2 jobs, one with Georgia Tech and the other with Taiwan's company at the same time and still be successful. So at the point, I decided really had no choice but to turn off my Georgia Tech email altogether to cut myself completely from the work in the United States. So stay
2 minutes remaining.
Okay, stay on what I started. I guess during the overseas stay, time really flies. All the daily routines, just covering the daily routine, will burn away energy and time very quickly. So I had to constantly remind myself what I really start out to do as the original intention and purposes. When I was about to take off from my Taiwan's job, I managed to accomplish most of the things I wanted to do at the beginning. All for the first time, the corporate university was in full swing. Corporate R&D center roaring, reorg completed, lean manufacturing initiative flourishing, ERP up and running like a charm. As many of you know how difficult it is to get the ERP rolling in a corporate environment. artificial intelligence saw the material availability, customer demands, machine utilization 6 months ahead of time. As a result of those, corporate stock price rose by 150%. Revenue jumped up from 4.5 billion US dollars to 7. And all these were happening during the global economic crisis period, 2008, 2009, and into 2010. So I was preparing to return to the US and change. Of course, returning to US, returning to Georgia Tech was very difficult, as you can imagine. I had no re-startup funds, no graduate student in the pipeline, and no research support upon my return. My teaching load, as you probably appreciate, my teaching load upon my return to Georgia Tech was instantly maxed out because of my previous year's research and teaching record was essentially zero. It took me quite a bit of a time, 2-year time, I would say, to fully recover and to rebuild. What I've learned, leverage on the experience, what I've learned during the absence time is that my sponsorship, the research funding sponsorship were much broader. I managed to receive some large-scale research grants based upon my Taiwan connection that helped me to restart. And it may surprise you to say, but it is absolutely true that my Taiwan's work experience in the field made me realize that much of my previous Georgia Tech teaching content was incorrect and incomplete, out of focus, and I had to correct for them. So overall, my experience in Taiwan can be summarized in one word. It is rewarding. The lesson I learned from the work experience has made me to become a better professor in the US. I would recommend this venture to anyone in the field, and I would do it again myself without any hesitation. Thank you very much for your attention, and I'm sorry the time has been totally exhausted to the last second now. Thank you.
Okay, Stephen, thanks. So I think right now for the topic 2, I would like to open for the question. I know that there's some question there in the chat. So any other people have a question for Nancy and then Stephen? If not, I think
there's one in the chat. There's one in the chat that asks, Nancy, please share how you overcome the doubt or fear when you face career changes, especially overseas ones.
Thank you. Let me try to answer that. And I'll be glad to invite Stephen to chime in if I'm sure that he also had his doubt. My doubt was that the family arrangement, because when I first received the offer, I actually turned it down because I was not ready and I was not willing to make the move. But then the more I thought about it, I said, because Taiwan is where I grew up, and so it make the choice a lot easier when you are choosing a place you are familiar with. And then, like I said in my presentation, 2006 was when my younger son went to college. So both my boys were in college at that time. So when I talked to my husband about this opportunity, he supported me, and he said, just do whatever you think is best. So I took the job in 2006. But the one thing I didn't realize was that the culture in Taiwan business was very different. Than in US. I've been working in US for over 20 years when I took the assignment. But when I landed in Taiwan, I realized the culture was very different. So it took some time to adjust. And then also, like I said earlier, RFID was in its early stage. There was nothing to rely on. So we have to build everything from scratch. That was hard. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. I have one question that for Stephen. I think, Stephen, you mentioned about that because your experience in Taiwan, I think, make you a better professor in teaching And could you share a little bit of insight when you say that some of those there maybe change from your original teaching material or something, and after you gain some experience? Could you share with us a little bit on those, maybe give a specific example on that?
Okay, there are two things as an example. I teach manufacturing technology, and a lot of things I've been teaching before my Taiwan experience, a lot of the things I was teaching was not correct. I didn't realize that the manufacturing was done in a different way in many aspects. And so just following what the textbook says. We professors, a lot of the times without industry experience, we go into a classroom and teach just leading the classroom by a couple of hours of reading ahead. So we spend another just 12 hours at a time reading the textbook before the students. Then we went into the classroom and talked. And the material in the textbook is not correct, and it's not complete. And the way I learned the real thing in on the shop floor, they look exactly very different. So the second thing, I think the textbook coverage and we do in the classroom was very incomplete because we did not cover a lot of the issues related to not only the manufacturing technology, but also the economic aspect behind it, the productivity, the competitiveness issues behind those. Those are absolutely important for engineering students to know, but we are not covering those at all in our curriculum today. That I had to change quite a bit. Thank you.
Okay, Stephen, thanks. So Esther, I think there's a question there in the chat. Could you read out on that?
Yes. The question to Nancy was asked also to Stephen. How did you overcome doubts and fear? But also, how did you deal with the pressure from Georgia Tech when you came back? Should I just continue until, because it's both?
Sure.
I can quickly answer that before I forget. At my age, that's very likely to forget. I basically turn off my email, and my department chair at Georgia Tech called me, okay, only for emergencies, and I just most of the time just disconnect him. And at one point, he had an emergency that he said, "You have to deal with this." I said, "I don't work for Georgia Tech now." And he said, "I will fly you back to Atlanta and take care of this, okay, on my expense next week." So I had really no way to avoid it, and I did that and came back and on his expense to do that. So there was a lot of difficulty to deal with at Georgia Tech. If you remember, if you can imagine what's going to happen to you as a U.S. professor and professional if you turn off your email box for a couple of years, what's going to happen? So that's the pressure. Yeah. Oh, thank you.
Okay. Thanks.
Also, there's a question about ultimately, why did you both come back to the U.S.? Because there are a lot of people who returned to Taiwan and stayed there.
Right. Because of my kids and because of my wife. My kids it's very difficult for them to study. They're all in school at that time. It's very difficult for them to complete study and their study and find a career path in Taiwan. That's close to impossible. And my wife was also a professional in the U.S. as well. So the choice was very, very clear for me to give up on those family issue. Is very, very difficult. Plus, I think a 3-year time, excuse me if I say this, I think a 3-year time is probably long enough for me to pay back my home country and relieve me of the feeling of guilt, not repaying my home country. I think I have done my part. So that's why I come back to U.S. Thank you.
Nancy?
Well, similar here is the reason we returned to U.S. is the family. My husband really wanted me to come back. He was working here. He didn't want to change his job and then move to Taiwan. So it is an obvious choice. If you have a family here, you have your house here. If you are not ready to move uproot your family to Taiwan, then there's only one choice.
The last one is, would you like to share, Stephen, would you like to share more about your experience to rebuild a new path after returning to Georgia Tech? And specifically, how much of your Taiwan practices can be continued in your research, teaching, and consulting work?
First of all, what we do at Georgia Tech is, first of all, is research. And I managed to pull in quite a bit of research funding support from my connections in Taiwan. Those are not directly from the employer that I work for in Taiwan, but it's associated surrounding my business dealings. It's very difficult to have a contract work at Georgia Tech for the employer that I directly work for, because I then will have to deal with the project details with technical managers I used to screen, I used to supervise. Okay, so it's a very difficult chemistry. But for the surroundings of my business dealing, I managed to get quite a bit of funding support that helped me restart. And also teaching, like I said, and professional services. I think with the connections, the global connections, I still enjoy quite a bit of community connectivity that helped me to do my professional work at Georgia Tech in the area of my field. Nancy, you want to add, perhaps?
My situation is a little bit different because when I came back to US, I decided I want to retire. So I didn't really leverage and I didn't extend my career, but the experience in Taiwan really broadened my perspective in life. And I had a very good time with my family. Actually, one of the decisions I went to Taiwan and took the position was because my parents want me to go. They said they thought they had lost their daughter when I came to US in early 1980s. So when they heard that there was an opportunity for me to go back and work in Taiwan, they said, just come back. You know, you really cannot turn down your parents' request. So that was one of the reasons I went. And so when I was there for a few years and I decided to come back to US, they supported me as well. They said, it's time for you to go back to your own family.
That's truly a touching story, a bit different than mine, because I left my senior mother back in Atlanta when I go back to work in Taiwan. That I feel sorry about all the time.
Yeah. Okay, so Esther, there's another question. Go ahead.
Could you share about your experience on finding mentors?
Is there anyone tell you, probably this is for two topics, both topics, probably, topic 1 and topic 2. So, which is, could you share about your experience on finding mentors? So in making those decisions, do you have some of the mentor, not maybe officially or unofficially? So that way, that kind of provide a help and to you.
Well, let me just start it. I'm sure that more people can chime in. Finding mentors, you just don't look for someone at home and then hope someone will come to you. You have to go to different conferences, attend different meetings in different settings. Then you can, based upon what you heard, what you observed, you can look for the mentors. But you know, it goes both ways. Mentors also are looking for mentees. So if you think that you are looking for a mentor, but you feel that you can offer something, you can contribute something, then you can become a very good mentee as well.
Okay. So Stephen, do you want to share a little bit?
I think what I totally agree with what Nancy just brought up. If you have a feeling that you can contribute and support some program, then the mentors would be naturally just there waiting for you.
Okay. Ross, are you going to share some of your thoughts on that?
I will briefly share. I think when I took my second job, I was hired as a succession plan really. So I was naturally assigned a mentor to work with. So that worked out really well because I see a lot of insights. They've had 30 years of experience. So sometimes mentors come to you naturally because of the job requirement. But I agree with what Stephen and Nancy mentioned is that you need to be willing and, not only, sometimes in my case, I'm still a junior staff, but I can offer a lot of my insights as well to younger, like postdocs or students. So it goes both ways.
Thank you. It's probably about time, and we have acquired interesting discussion and excellent presentations. So I would like to thank all the speakers for their excellent presentation. You were great. This is quite a lot of information for us to share each other. And in addition, I would like to also thank members and visitors and guests for your participation. And I would like to thank Catherine, Esther, and Mac for your hard work. I think quite enjoyable that working with you guys to putting all this together. I also would like to thank Yong-An, who is my PhD student. I think he put together a workshop survey and also to help me to organize some material. So I think I just want to mention finally, to carry out the momentum for establishing a sustainable information and knowledge sharing platform and mentorship program, as well as this networking opportunity, it would be appreciated if you could complete the workshop survey, I think on the right-hand side of the chat. And that is the putting some of the information there's about today's workshop content, as well as the future workshop content, as well as a speaker that you think the one would be useful for our purpose or our vision. And also finally, also in terms of mentor and mentees. So it is very important for the purpose of planning our future workshop. So in addition, you can contact me and Catherine in case that this is the last slide that I'm putting here, that in case that you have the further question that you would like to know and more. So this is the contact information that for Catherine and myself. So with that, finally, I would like to appreciate the support from Most and Techro. I think your support enabled us to do the great things. Thank you very much. So with that, we will stop here then. Have a nice weekend. Yeah. Bye all. Yeah.
Thank you very much for our great speakers and our great audience. Have a nice weekend.
Okay. Bye.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.